Hello and welcome back to the channel. It's Mark from PowerSonic and Apprentice 101. Today I want to have a look at some of the awesome books from Napit. I've had these on back order since Amendment 2 was first updated and they've arrived today. I want to run through them. There is some sensational stuff within these books to help us as contractors, and also really helpful stuff for those of you who might be on a trainee route or in the process of completing your apprenticeships. So I wanted to go through exactly what these books have inside them and some of the key things that can really help you on your learning journey and also help you while you're out on site. So let's get to it. Okay, so one of the books I want to come straight to is the headline Napit book in my opinion, and that's Code Breakers. So this is on its third variation now. It's grown in size with every update that they've made, and some of the advice and guidance within this document is fantastic. Now obviously when you are the inspector carrying out your EICRs, this isn't a how-to, it's not a this is the code. It always comes down to your own engineering judgment and the site in front of you for assessment. So don't base all of your codes on this as gospel, but it was certainly going to give you a good pointer in the right direction if you've got something you're a little unsure with, or you want to check what some other industry peers think about certain scenarios that you would come across on a common inspection. Now, one of the things I want to point straight to at the beginning is the list of individuals who've helped contribute to this document. I'll hold that forward. We'll see if it'll focus in some way. There we go. Now, there's a list of industry experts on there who've put their time into producing this book, and two of the standout names that jumped straight out to me was Gary Hayers and Joe Robinson. But kudos to everybody who's been involved in producing this book. It's up there, definitely. It basically goes through what you would find on a typical inspection. So it takes you through the earthing, for example. So you've got your section 3. It kind of follows on where it'll build into distribution boards and consumer units. Obviously we don't have time on this video to go through every single aspect of the book, but I wanted to point towards the end here where it actually details some of the special locations. So this is a change from when it first came out. The codes and scenarios have grown extensively, and I imagine as this builds for the future, it'll become a more detailed document even further than it is now. You see that with every edition as this that it comes out. But some of the things that people don't realise towards the back of this book, there is some absolute gold in there. So you've got the risk assessments for RCDs and SPDs, and obviously with Amendment 2 that's not such a factor anymore, but they have sample risk assessment forms for those of you who aren't familiar with filling them out on a regular basis, point you in the right direction of what those can look like and how to approach carrying out a risk assessment. Really useful. Also in determining the frequency of your next inspection, so there's guidance in there on that. There is also guidance in some of the medium and high and low risk areas that you might find in certain installations. So really useful. And again, towards the back of the book, you have got some sample certificates, how your observation codes might be laid out, routine operational visual inspection form. So again, that's in there. Some flow charts and then information about your max 100% and 80% Z values. So it's all in there. There's some real gold towards the end. So you've got your ZS values for fuses and cable current carrying capacities. So really useful. Some nice diagrams too. Very much recommend you check that one out. So that is the Code Breakers book, and if I can find the beginning of it again. And this complies with Amendment 2. You can see the brown stripe on there. So really good book, that one. The next one I want to speak about is a new one on me. I didn't get this at the last offering, so the blue book of 18th edition. I've just got it for this brown version because I had some really good things about this one, and thanks to Ricky Howell, he's the one who put me onto this in particular. And straight away, if you look there, you can see this is quite a thick book. So in terms of comparing it to the on-site guide from the IET, straight away you can see there's a few more pages in there than you get with your on-site guide, and that plays out as you run through this. And again, the list of names at the start of the book, same sort of people, they've all had the same input on this one. I like at the start that it takes you through the legal requirements, so there's a whole section there on everything to do with the electricity at work regs to the building regulations and all of the other legal implications that you have in the course of doing electrical work. It's quite a detailed section. There's a number of pages on that there. In fact, the first 40 odd pages are all to do with the legal requirements around the work we do. You've then got the requirements of the standards, which kind of opens up to some explanation of what they mean. So it goes into detail about your selection of electrical equipment, initial verification, so that's all in there. You've then got a section on identification of installation requirements, so it breaks it down, some lovely little pictures in there as well, always nice to see. Again, I'll just give you a quick flick through so you can get an idea of some of the stuff that's in there. Nice graphics, I like that a lot. What else have we got in here? So we've got a section on design considerations, so it'll actually take you through some of the designs on installations as well. That's quite a beefy section. And again, you get nice graphics and pictures to help explain the point that they're trying to make, which I like. One of my favourite sections in this one is section 5, and that's the safe isolation of electrical supplies. So they actually break down how to go about safe isolation, and I'll just jump to the graphic here. So you've got the 12 steps on the domestic side of things, and then on the other side of the page they go through the same process but base it on 3-phase. So big fan of that. I think that's nice to get in there, that it's actually covering safe isolation. A lot of the industry guidance and stuff that you see floating around doesn't ever really make any mention of it, so that's nice that it's in there. There's also a section on inspection and testing. Obviously there is a dedicated book for that, and we'll get to it in a minute, but they've covered it in here as well, so it gives you some of the basics about how you carry out some of the tests and what they mean, and again, lots of nice pictures to help explain what they are. Progression of documentation, so there's some explanation in and around all of that and what that means. That's nice. And my other favourite sections in here, because it's new to us, we've got section 8, which is to do with prosumerism. So there's some explanation in there around what PV is, what battery storage is, and some of the ways that you would go about installing it. So that's nice and helpful information for those of us who aren't familiar with doing those sorts of installs on a regular basis and are yet to go through some of the training. You know, to get an outline of what it looks like and how it all works in here is very, very useful. And again, there's some nice pictures, and it talks about the different implications of DC and AC systems working together. Now, the reason that Rick put me onto this is to do with section 9, and that is the electric vehicle charging. So it has a detailed section in there where it goes through how to work out your maximum demand, your loading considerations, load management of electric vehicles, different TN systems. That is quite a detailed section, and again, you get some nice graphics in there. It explains about a dedicated EV consumer unit, so if you can see that. And again, some of the dangers around simultaneous contact, risk assessments. There's loads of stuff in there. It's another detailed section. It explains about the RCDs that you can use for electric vehicle charge points. It's just a handy reference guide. It goes on to tell you about the modes of charging as well. So mode 1, mode 2, mode 3 and mode 4. So really like that. And then there's section 10, which is about smart homes. So the end of the book is all this new emerging technologies that we're going to be faced with as electricians. Some of it's already here and well established, some of it's growing, and some of it's brand new. And it's nice that Napit have covered that in this book. It looks like this is going to be a really useful one, and anybody who is kind of getting involved in and around all this new stuff to do with EV, prosumers and smart homes, it's well worth having this on the van as an easy point of reference. And that's certainly where this one's going to be going. It'll be kept on board our vehicle, so if we've ever got an issue, we can jump to that and have a look through it. Another one is this guide to initial verification and periodic inspection and testing. Now again, you can see it's a reasonable size, so I guess you could say this is supposedly in equivalence of guidance note 3 in its idea of what it wants to achieve. Same group of people at the start of the book, and again they've got a section on the legal requirements. They've got a section on requirements for electrical installations, so that's section 2. And it's talking about Amendment 2, which is nice. Section 3, identification of distribution equipment, so it tells you how to identify what circuit's doing what, I guess. And let's have a little look in there. What have we got? Consumer units, distribution boards and components, switch disconnectors. So it's explaining all the key differences of the components within a typical board. It goes on to talk about some of the ratings, so your short circuit rating of your devices, lots of extra information that you might not find within Guidance Note 3. What else have we got in there? We have got a section on safe isolation of electrical supplies again. So they've got another bit in there about safe isolation, and this looks to go into a little bit more detail than the Onsite Solutions. So they've broken it down, and then they've got the same diagrams in there as well. So that's nice to see that Napit are really pushing that safe isolation message and including it in their books. There's a section on the test instruments and what you should and shouldn't be using, like that. So they're clearly defining it. Mention of proving units. Again, I'm just giving these a really fast skim just to give you an idea. It talks you through the test process, obviously, and how to null your leads and all those kind of things, how to do your ring final testing, and there's images as well to help explain that and some of the maths behind it all, which is fantastic. Those of you who've watched my YouTube channel have seen me try and have a go at it, so to have an industry resource like this with loads of diagrams and explanations is really useful. Section 7 talks about initial verification, so this is explaining the difference between initial verification and your periodics. It's often where a lot of inspectors slip up in applying those scenarios in the wrong situation. So doing initial verification on an existing installation and then only doing a periodic on something that's brand new. So this is clearly setting out and explaining what those differences are, and if you go to the next section, that's actually a section on periodic assessment as well. So they've separated those out nicely. They talk about some of the critical differences and how you would base your inspection and testing against that. And then they've got some sample certificates in the back just to show you what they should look like and how they should be filled in. So if you're unfamiliar with filling in the forms, really useful because it actually goes through that process in the book. It's like that as well. And then the last one, last but not least, this is the Landlords and Electrical Inspectors Guide for the private rented sector. So with this one, I use it to help explain to some of the landlords and letting agents issues we've discovered through the course of PRS. This we had the blue version of, and it was actually quite useful to kind of explain to them their responsibilities and also, you know, why we're coming to some of the decisions we are. It does break it down into layman terms at that level, which I like. And again, you've got samples of the certificates in the back. You've got how you carry out improvements after an EICR, what defines a qualified and competent person. So they've got a whole section on that to help explain that to the landlord, what their responsibility is and how they arrange for the right person to inspect their premises. It's nice that Napit are putting some value into that. The electrical installation safety checks, how they should be done and who they should be carried out by. What else have we got? That's a whole massive section in there. Your legal requirements, so they clearly set out, and this is often the one that people do get confused with what the law is actually intending. So it's in there in black and white. You can help your client by taking them through that section. And again, it's just a nice book to put towards a customer who may be having doubts about some of the reasoning behind the work that needs to be done, and also their legal responsibilities because of the change in law last year. And again, none of this is paid or sponsored. I've bought these books from Napit direct and I've given them a good look through. And yeah, just wanted to share them with you guys really because I was impressed with them. Certainly the Code Breakers, Onsite Solutions, fantastic books. And if you're kind of working towards becoming a qualified electrician and subsequent inspector and tester, having the book on your guide to initial verification is a nice one. You know, there's lots of extra detail in there that you don't find in Guidance Note 3, and it is a pool of industry experts, if you like, coming together to share their knowledge within that book. So well worth checking out. They're not expensive. They're sort of 20 to 30 quid each, I think. We got them as a pack, so if you go on the Napit website, they'll sell them as a pack of the 4 books. You can get Guidance Note 3 and some of the IET books as well, included in some of those deals to save a bit of money. It's well worth checking out. I'll drop a link to the description below so you can go and have a look yourselves if you wish. And yeah, only other thing to really say is they come with a nice little screen on the cover there to help keep them not so tatty, because we know what it's like when they get chucked under the van seats or in a testing bag, they soon get scuffed up. So there's a bit of an effort gone in there to keep them neat and tidy, which I like as well. And yeah, that's the Napit books. I hope you found that video useful. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments below and I'll do my best to help. Thanks to everyone who is following on with the channel. Any likes and subscribes are massively appreciated. So if you haven't already, click on those buttons, and thank you for the support. We'll see you on the next one.